everybody. Welcome to the Raising Greats podcast, a place where we can hear about how successful and sometimes professional people were raised to help them get into that spot. So today we have somebody
Mhm.
really excited to talk to. If you have a cheerleader in your house, you are definitely going to listen to this because we have the none other than Kristy DeJesus. She was a former NFL cheerleader for, it's very timely, the Kansas City Chiefs. So, welcome, Kristy. Can you go into what started your path here and tell us a little bit about how you got to that spot?
Hi. Well, thanks for having me. I am a mom of five children now, so my life looks very different now than it did 20 years ago when I was with the Chiefs. But I look back at this time of my life, and I'm just so thankful because it led to so many other great things in my life. But being with the Chiefs 20 years ago was such an honor, such a joy. I look back and I still think I can't believe I got to do that. And I was living in Kansas City at the time, and I watched the cheerleaders perform at halftime at a college basketball game. And I was just there watching with some friends. I was teaching school, so I was a fifth grade teacher at the time. And I watched the girls perform. I hadn't done anything in years. I hadn't danced or cheered or really done anything except for just working out at the gym. And I watched the girls dance and perform. And there was just something in my mind that said, I think I can do that. I think I can do that. And that's really where it started for me and my journey with the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's awesome. Okay, so you have a little bit of a dancing background, is that right? And
Mhm.
what age?
Yeah, I loved dancing when I was a young girl. I started dance like so many, and I loved tap and ballet and jazz, and I did all sorts of different styles of dance. I really loved hip hop and jazz more than the slower ballet. That wasn't my cup of tea, but as a dancer, you just try every different style. I was in a dance company growing up. Dancing is very different now than it was when I was a child. The level of competition, it's so intense now. And when I was growing up, I mean, I guess it was intense back then too for that time period, but I just loved it. Like I loved to dance. I loved to perform. And but after high school, I didn't move on to college. I didn't cheer in college because I wasn't a flyer. And in college, you need to be the flyers. You need to be the girls that go up in the pyramids and are flipped and tossed around. And I was always the base. I was always the girl on the bottom that pushed the little flyers up. And so I didn't move on to college just thinking that I couldn't. I thought already in my mind that there wasn't a place for me. So I didn't even try. Honestly, I didn't even try. I finished high school and that was that. And I really thought that my days cheering and dancing were done. So, even if you take a break, even if you take a huge hiatus from whatever sport or activity that you're interested in, there's always a chance to come back.
That's a great thing to always keep in the back of our minds as parents as well, raising kids, that I feel like today's culture is constantly shoving into the kids that you have to do this 24/7 around the clock, and there's no giving up on that. So, can you speak to that a little bit?
I just want them to have a beautiful childhood. I want them to be strong humans. I want them to be kind, compassionate people, even if they never play soccer again or whatever the sport they might be into. I want them to grow and learn from everything they do, whether it's time, like my daughter, she's so good at soccer. I mean, she's so good. I don't even like to brag about her because I feel like her whole life has been like this identity of soccer. She made the nationals team at a young age. She's so good at what she does, but there's also this pressure that comes with that. And she carries that pressure like she has to be so good. And everyone's expecting her to be so good or carrying the team or whatever it may be. And I don't want that pressure for her because it's a lot. And she's lost the love and the joy of soccer the way that she once did. She doesn't even want to play anymore. And as a mom, it's so heartbreaking because I think my dog wants to go. I think like how can she quit after all this? Why would she want to quit? Where's the love? What happened? How can I get it back that it's not my journey? This is her journey. This is her life experience. I'm just going to support her and love her no matter what she chooses. It may come back, it may not. I
Mhm.
mean, that's part of having athlete children. You know what I mean? There's going to be seasons to it. I still love dance. I still love it. All these years later, I teach classes at the gym. I teach some dance here and there. I teach spin. And I feel like this joy of dancing is still within me. Last year, we got to go back. They did a big 60-year reunion of all the Kansas City Chiefs cheerleaders over the last 60 years. And so we were all invited back. We got to go to the game. We got to go onto the field at halftime and perform. So I think 300 women came back. There were women there in their 80s. They cheered back in the 60s, and all different, we're all just in different walks of life now. And I thought, practicing the routine that we performed, I could not get enough of it. I loved the practicing. I loved the idea of thinking about getting onto the field, just the anticipation of it, actually being there, walking out onto that field after 20 years. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing. And so, like, I still love it. And so even if your child doesn't go on to a professional level, like, the love of the game, the love of the discipline, the love of the structure, the love of working out and moving their body and being healthy, like, all of that is coming into play in all of this with what we're doing with our kids. We have to create lifelong learners, and a love of fitness, a love of taking care of themselves, a love of being able to train and stay on course if they have a dream.
Did you recognize in that while you were a child, did you recognize, like, oh, this is consuming a lot of our family's time? You had four other brothers. What were there times where your brothers didn't get to do the things that they wanted to do because your family was sewing into this area of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when my brothers were really little. I don't know how my mom did it looking back. I feel like I understood my mom more as a person when I became a mom. Like, I look back and I think, I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she managed this, because my dad was working so much and gone a lot. Like, it really was all on her shoulders to navigate and figure out. But I remember, like, my mom being in the dance studio, and I remember, like, looking out and seeing my mom there. And, once I put my kids in dance, my girls did dance for a little bit. You understand, like, it's a full hour, 45 minutes of your time. And I would take class after class after class, usually 3 classes, because the dance studio was far away. And so my mom didn't want to drive back and forth. So she would sit there and wait for me. And I remember seeing her face, and it brought me comfort just to know, because I was just young. I was 6, 7, 8 years old, that my mom was out there. So looking back, I know that that was a sacrifice for her, to leave my brothers, to get a babysitter, to get my grandparents, get the house figured out, dinner, everything going, so that she could spend that time with me. And we did that for years and years. She would do that. And I remember one time specifically, there was a special camp that came to Seattle. We were living in Seattle, Washington at the time. And these were professional dancers that came, and they did a workshop, and you had to audition to go and be there for this weekend. And I made it. And my dad, I just remember him driving me there, and he was so proud of me. And I know it was really expensive for my parents and them not having a lot. Looking back, I just think, like, they were probably more proud that they could do that for me, that they could take me there, that I had made it, and that's what they focused on more than probably what it cost at the time, was just that their little girl was doing something on this level. Like, I didn't see it then, but I understand it now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, as children, it's hard to see that perspective, but I do feel like us moms now, we sit back and we're like, wow, like, that must have been so important to them that I succeeded in that area, whether it be for a short time or a long time. It was something that I was good at. It was something that was bringing me joy, and it must have brought them some joy as well. I know I just recently told my son, you know what? When you play soccer, it's one of my favorite things to do. I love watching you play soccer so much. And he looked up at me with a complete surprised face, like, really, like, it's not just something that is on your to-do list and you check it off, and it's really not. Like, so I as you're explaining that, I can feel just through your words that they probably had so much joy in watching you do this. It was for you, but it was equally for them too.
I look at my kids, because I've got 5 kids, and they're all different ages, from 18 down to 8. And I think they're probably not going to remember this, but this is my life. Like, these are my experiences and my memories too. They're going to make their own someday, and they're going to look back on their life with these fond memories that I have, like my childhood. But this is my experience too as a mom. I get to choose if I'm going to go here or do this. Because at the end of my life, I want to look back and feel like I didn't miss anything. I didn't, I don't have any regrets. Like I did everything that I ever set out to do as a person, as a mom, as a wife. I didn't miss anything, So even if my kids don't acknowledge it or feel it or see it, like it's for me too. I'm loving this stage of motherhood. I love it. Even if they don't remember it, I will. I cherish it. I love it. So it's okay.
So speaking to like trainings and practices, because it is a lot growing up, um, were you in like every camp, every time that the soccer fields were, had the lights, or not the soccer fields, I'm sorry, the gym, every time the gym had their like doors open and the lights on, were you there like practicing? Like what was your regimen like with that? And yeah, if you could just explain that a little bit.
Well, when I was growing up, I don't know that I was like as serious. I took my time with the Chiefs. We were professional cheerleaders, so everything had to be very specific and we had to be very organized. We had to be very polished. It was very different than high school. And when I was in high school, I was just kind of there to have a good time. I didn't take it very seriously because I didn't see myself pursuing anything. I didn't have a self belief in myself that there was anything outside of high school cheerleading, honestly. My parents were in a financial position where they really couldn't do a lot for us, especially as we got older. We had to take on more financial responsibilities starting really as early as 16. I kind of had to pay for everything on my own, my car, my insurance, anything I needed for school, my cheerleading uniform, the athletic fee for being on the cheerleading team, just in general, like that fell on me. And it was hard and difficult, but I'm grateful because it made me work really hard and it made me prioritize, like, is this important for me? Is this worth spending my money on? Because I'm going to have to work for this.
Your parents probably weren't thinking, oh, she's going to be a cheerleader for a football team. I'm sure they probably weren't. They were worried about like getting dinner done, taking you to practice,
Mhm.
the what they had to do for that day. So, with that, were there any like conversations with your parents and you about possible career paths, or were they like not really pushing you to in this area, or were they pushing you to do something different, or was it just like completely open?
So my dad used to tell me this all the time. He would say to me during middle school and high school years, he was like, Kristy, why aren't you trying out for the volleyball team? And I was like, Dad, I don't know how to play volleyball. I've never played volleyball. Like, I'm not going to try out for the team. And he's like, you can't be a professional cheerleader, Kristy. You need to play a sport. You need to do something else. And I remember thinking, like, I'm not good at that stuff, though, Dad. I don't like that. Like, that's not where my heart is. Kristy, you need to play basketball. You need a sport, Kristy. My dad would say this to me all the time, almost diminishing what I was doing, thinking that something else would be better. Right? Like, this isn't good enough, so let's try this. And he didn't do it in a mean way, and I was so used to it. So I don't think ill of my dad at all for saying this. I think it's really ironic what ended up happening. But he would tell me this throughout the years, like, you can't be a professional cheerleader, Kristy. You need to get that scholarship. You need to go on. You need to play sports. You need to play soccer, whatever it was. And I don't know if subconsciously I just heard this message my whole life, thinking like, well, yeah, I can. Why can't I?
Mhm.
And I started perhaps turning that conversation around in my mind because of what was being said. So our words are really powerful as parents. So are we telling our kids, like, you're not going to make it to college? Like, this is only for a season. You can't make it to college. Are we like immediately diminishing what could possibly be? Maybe they can go to college on a scholarship. Maybe they'll just try out for the team and walk on because they love it so much. Maybe they weren't offered a scholarship, but they still play anyways, right? Maybe they will try out. They have the NFL teams, the NBA, they all have open tryouts every year. People can actually just come and try out, right? Like, what if we're already telling our kids and setting them up for failure because we don't really think there's anything beyond high school for them. We don't really think there's anything beyond college for them. Do you know what I mean? Like, as coaches, as parents, our words are really, really powerful. How can we as moms and parents help cast a greater vision for our children so they do think 20 years down the road? They do think, what am I good at? What do I love? What kind of job is out there for me that I would love to do every day, even at 10 years old? we can start helping cast that vision for the future, because I don't know that I think about that all the time. I'm just worried about what I'm making for dinner and who's got practice tonight and what we're doing this weekend. I'm not like 20 years out talking and dreaming and planning with my kids like that. So that's something that we can do. The words that we use and we speak to our children really can change their whole life. So what if you play in college? What sport would you want to play? What would you want to do? What if you were a professional singer, dancer, choreographer, songwriter? Think of all the different jobs that are like maybe behind the scenes. They're not forward and in your face. They're like the people behind the scenes, but they're still working at a professional level. They're still doing something that they love, that they're good at. Our words have power. So, kind of just being more aware of what we're saying to our kids. The day that I tried out for the Chiefs, I was in a different marriage at the time. I had a first husband who was very abusive, emotionally and verbally. And the night before tryouts, I had been practicing for months and working to get my skills back for months. And the night before tryouts, he said to me, "Do you really think you're going to make it tomorrow?" And I said, "Yeah." I was really thrown back by the question. And I said, "Yeah, I think I have a chance." I mean, yeah, I was just embarrassed. And he was like, "I'm going to tell you this right now. You're not going to make the team." And I remember, I don't know if it was kind of like that flashback in some way of my dad. And I went into the bathroom and I remember I was crying. I was so upset, I was so angry, so hurt. And I remember like I pulled myself together and then I got a little angry. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And I'm grateful in this weird, sick kind of way that happened, because I walked into the room the next day. There were 1,500 women in that room to try out. And I remember thinking, I'm going to make this team today. I'm going to make it. And I had the belief walking in. I just believed it. I could imagine it. I could see it. And I believed it so wholeheartedly that I could do this. And I made the team first time trying out. A lot of the girls have to try out, 4 or 5 times before they make the team. And I walked in with that feeling of belief that I could do this. And so helping our kids get that belief is really important. My son just made the JV team for his soccer high school, very competitive here. And he has worked so hard. Nothing comes easy for him at all. His sister, naturally just very gifted with this. He is not the same. He has to work 10 times harder than her. And everyone in our town, they know about Olivia. They talk about it. And then here comes Logan and sees huge shoes that he has to fill. And it's hard for him. And so we would practice and he would practice and he would do the thing. But then I would sit with him and I would say, "Logan, I need you to close your eyes. I need you to imagine tryouts. And I want you to be there on the field in your mind right now." And we would walk through this scenario of tryouts and see him in his mind running as fast as he could and kicking the ball and maneuvering the ball and staying in control of his emotions. And then I said, "I want you to picture yourself in the uniform on the field. I want you to see it in your mind that you're on the team. And when you walk in there tomorrow and you're trying out, you have to walk in there knowing that you're going to make the team. You have to know that you're going to make the team, Logan." And that's what we would do. We would practice that. We would walk through that situation again and again, because as a mom, my greatest job is to give him that self-belief so that he can find it himself. And so that's what we did. And the other night he's on the team and he's on the field and he's in his uniform for the first time. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, he did it. He did it. We've been talking about this for years, Natasha. And there was the moment. There it was just 2 nights ago. And I just sat there and I'm like, I just want to feel this moment as a mom. I don't want to miss this, because here it is. It's the moment that we waited for and that we practiced and we saw before it was. So that would be my greatest advice for moms in helping their kids, help them see it before it's here.
And I love that so much, because the confidence that we instill into our kids, it will last them a lifetime. It will be this moment right now for him, but he's going to look back on this moment and it's going to be building blocks to where, because he had you in this situation, he's going to take what you gave him, the lessons that he learned, and he's going to move forward in life, whether it be more soccer or something completely different, he's going to be able to lean on that experience. So thank you for sharing that with me. I love that. I love talking with you because not only do you have your own experiences of becoming a professional athlete, but then you're also in a mom life right now raising athletes, and regardless of where they go with their career, you're giving great advice for parents that coming from your background of like what you see and what you know kids need, and they need that support, and at the end of the day, like you're going to be able to just continue that relationship. And not only is it just your confidence that you're building in him, but you're building that relationship too, that like that he's going to come to you for other things as well. So I really, really love that. Thank you. So with athletes, there is just a huge, for me at least, like this nervous feeling of like, oh, don't get hurt, don't get hurt, don't get hurt. And I'm sure that you probably feel that too. And I'm sure your parents probably felt that as well. And so I feel like, especially as just the world continues, like it's just the demands on athletes are just getting greater and greater, pushing yourself to do more, to pushing yourself really to the limit. We see that so many times. And so both when you were a child with your parents and then now with you raising athletes, where do you think that fine line is of being like, ooh, don't maybe do that move because and when you say soccer for your kids, I'm so nervous when they do headers. And I'm like, oh my goodness, don't. Or back to your cheerleading days or dance days, the moves getting more risky and more risky. So I guess speak to that a little bit of you know, where that falls with parents on, should that be something that we're constantly worried about, or do we just have to kind of say, you know what, this is what they're doing right now, and if they get hurt, we'll walk down that road.
All right, so this is my thoughts on injuries because I have been riddled with back issues since my time with the Chiefs. And I teach classes now at the gym pretty much every morning, but I have to stick with classes that are not going to hurt me. I know my limits. I know if I do a certain thing, I'm going to pay the price for it. So just being really smart with what you do and how you train. Kids, it's just different. You know, they have to do what their coaches or their trainers are telling them. They can't really be like, I'm not going to do that today. My mom said I shouldn't do that, right? Like they can't do that. They kind of have to just go with the flow. But I think stretching is really important. This is hard because kids are not going to want to do this. My kids don't want to do this, but icing, rest, and stretching are so important. And I don't know, just coming from a Pilates and dance and bar background, when I see the kids out there, even at practice, like they're not really stretching, they do a few little warm up things. And I mean, there's just so many other ways that they could stretch their body that would be more beneficial. So helping them at home to stretch. Patrick Mahomes, really interesting. The Quarterback was a show that was on Netflix this last year. Really good. If you haven't seen it, I mean, just really good. Even if you're not into football, it's so good. But he talked about his trainer, who he actually moved out to Kansas City because he worked with him in college. And this guy was so good at helping his body to understand what to do in every situation. So as he fell, they would practice all of these different maneuvers and how the body would perform, during a fall. Or I won't even do it justice explaining it, but it was like watching the Super Bowl. Everything that his body had to endure, he was able to bounce back so quickly because he trained for it. He trained for the fall. He trained for the twisting and these weird motions that his body was going to be in. I don't know if a lot of athletes do that. I know my kids don't do that. So, preparing the body, but this is really interesting and kind of like on a deeper level. But my daughter, Olivia, she has a lot of injuries going on because of what she's done with her body already. And as a parent, like, we're not going to go through the surgeries and do all of this kind of stuff at these young ages. I don't believe in that. So I'm going to protect her from that. If her body is overworked, if she is in constant pain, if there's injury after injury, we are going to pull back because it's not worth living the rest of her life in pain, going through all these surgeries that I see so many children undergoing. I'm not doing that in my house. So if it ever comes to that, there will be a moment where, we're going to call it a day. We're going to step back. So I think that's important to do. But also I think a lot of this is kind of like on a deeper level, but I think a lot of our pain is also mental. There's a fear of hurting ourselves again. So if you have a back injury or a knee injury, this fear that you're going to re-injure yourself is kind of always there. And so wherever the brain goes, the body follows. And so I'm trying to work with Olivia a little bit more on telling her that she's okay, that she's safe, that everything's okay, have fun today, not to take things so serious, be light about it. And it's been interesting to kind of see her injuries lessen.
Mm.
They're not as severe right now than what we've been dealing with before. So more pressure, more intensity, more pain a lot of times. And I think that the body's so focused on that, so worried about that. And here it comes. So helping our kids with that mindset and understanding a little bit more about how pain works in the brain and how the body will follow, something that we can do to teach our kids. In that moment, you're on the field, telling yourself, I'm okay, I'm safe, and then helping them get through that moment.
That's so much. And so my final question to you is, ever since I've known you, you've been super into health and wellness. And so that goes into what you were just talking about. And I think you had told me that your dad really is very healthy. Like he's like to work out. Did you learn that from him? Was a self-discovery for you? And uh, just speaking to like all of the parents out there raising athletes, like what do you think is really important for us to know about health and wellness for our kids? And I know that you promote like supplements too. Feel free to tell us about those as well.
So my dad always was working out when I was growing up. On a Saturday morning, he's out running, he's working out, he's mowing the lawn, he's cleaning the cupboards. You know, my dad was just this amazing person growing up, such a good example for me. And we would go running all the time. When I was in middle school, we would be out running in our neighborhood. And there were so many moments that I tried to stop. And I shared this story in my spin class all the time that I would say to my dad, Dad, can we just stop at the end of the road? I'm tired, Dad. Like I have a cramp. Can we just stop at the tree and just walk for a little bit? And he would say to me, Kristy, figure it out, figure it out, figure it out. And so I'm running and I'm frustrated because I don't want to get left behind. I want to keep up with him. We're in the middle of, nowhere in my neighborhood. And so in that moment, I would try to figure out, okay, what's bothering me? What's wrong right now? Is it my breathing? Is it focusing on this sock that's irritating me? Is it my necklace bouncing up and down? Like what is wrong that I can't like get my breath and get my mind right and keep going? What's the problem that I need to figure out? And so I would kind of tap into my body and what was happening. And I would start to focus on that and try to relax and breathe into it and just keep going and just kind of lessen that distraction so I could finish the run. And so I share that story with my class, like figure it out. When you're going, when you want to quit, when the resistance is too much, when you're shutting down mentally, figure it out. Stopping is not the option. Let's figure this out. Figure it out. And so that was just kind of like a lesson that has carried through me, with me throughout my life, like during difficult seasons, in my marriage and parenting and in my career. I started my own business about 14 years ago, almost now. And I have my own online business and a team I grew, and I'm able to actually support my family with it. But there are definitely a lot of seasons where I have to figure it out. I have to figure out what's wrong. Where's my distraction going? Where's my mind going? And it's like the thorn in my side. I have to figure that out and get back on track and keep going. Figure it out.
Yeah, so kind of like a no excuses approach to like your health and wellness. And I know we just all around us, we see people being unhealthy and unwise in decisions with their bodies, whether it be like food consumption or just simply not working out. And I know for me and my household, like we are constantly trying to live a healthier lifestyle. And not only for their athleticism, it's going to help with that. It's going to make us feel better, be happier. And
Mm.
I know that you're a big advocate for that, which I love. So thank you so much. And I'll make
Yeah.
sure that your website, that way everybody can see, the things that have helped you and your family too. So
Yeah.
this has been really great. I appreciate your time so much, and go
Thank you
Chiefs.
so much. Thanks for having me. Yeah, go Chiefs.